How much money footballers should or shouldn't earn is a question that seems to have enormous public interest, drummed up largely by the media, more so than the salaries and income of people in just about any other profession. Whatever you think of the wages of Mohamed Salah or Robert Lewandowski though, they are certainly worth what they are paid by their clubs to their clubs. And then some, given their talent, star power, and the consistent impact that they have and have had on their team's results for a number of years. The same could not be said, for example, of someone like Winston Bogarde, who earned £40,000 a week for 4 years at Chelsea at the beginning of the 2000s, despite the fact that he only made 12 appearances for Chelsea during that entire time. Or Jack Rodwell, arguably the greatest con artist since Charles Ponzi, who was reportedly paid £70,000 a week at Sunderland, where he made just 2 appearances in the Championship as the Black Cats suffered a second successive relegation. It is those types of players that we're interested in this video. Footballers who, in the least generous of terms, are stealing a living. And that isn't necessarily a criticism of them. My only definitive criteria is that I only considered players who have played fewer than 1,000 minutes of football in all competitions this season at club level, which, given the fact that some players have played more than 4,000 minutes of football, Romelu Lukaku has played more than 2,000, and even Kepa Arrizabalaga has more than 1,000 under his belt, is not setting a particularly high bar. Of course, some players have only played so few minutes because of injuries, and those players are exempt from this 7. That is not to say that the players in this 7 have been injury-free, just that injuries aren't the only reason, or even the main reason, why they are not and have not been playing games. Right, trademark rambling Alfie introduction and explanation of the criteria, finally done and dusted. Here are the 7 highest paid footballers on planet Earth, I couldn't get the data for any of the other planets, who barely play any actual football. 7th, Juan Bernat. I have to say, I was a little bit shocked by Juan Bernat's supposed salary, though perhaps I shouldn't have been, given that he joined PSG from Bayern Munich in 2018. So-called super clubs tend to pay super wages, and Bernat is testament to that fact, reportedly on €160,000 or £135,000 a week. That is the same salary as his teammate Angel Di Maria is said to earn, who has been not just one of PSG's most important players over the last 7 years, but one of the best wide players in all of Europe. Bernat, it must be said, is certainly a very capable left wing-back. Capped 11 times by Spain, in what is one of the most competitive positions in all of world football, Bernat is fast, tenacious, and he gets forward down that left flank with real purpose. Or at least, he does when he plays. Bernat has always been prone to muscle injuries, but in September 2020, he ruptured his anterior cruciate ligaments, which is among the worst injuries that a footballer can get. That ruled Bernat out for almost exactly a year, which means he returned to action at the beginning of this season. Naturally, it is bound to take Bernat some time to get back up to speed, but if he is to do that at all, he'll have to start playing some more games. The Spaniard has only played a full 90 minutes of football on 3 occasions so far this season. He didn't make a single one of PSG's Champions League matchday squads, not even the bench, and in the last 3 Ligue 1 games that he has started, PSG lost 2 of them. 6th, Juan Mata. Juan Spaniard just follows another in this 7, if you know what I mean, and I would just like to take this opportunity to apologise to any Spanish viewers who might be watching this, and indeed all viewers wherever you might be from, for that appalling joke. Essentially, I've drafted my 7, I've seen that the first 2 inclusions are both called Juan, and I just couldn't help myself. A better man would have said, yeah, Juan Bernat and Juan Mata, 2 Spanish internationals both called Juan, which is one of the most common first names in Spain. There is nothing to see there. But I, with my laser-sharp wit and total disdain for Spanish culture, have chosen to make light of the fact that Juan sounds a bit like Juan when said in a Spanish accent. Look, I'll be totally honest with you, it is one of the worst jokes that I've ever made on this channel. Oh well, I suppose it doesn't really matter. Speaking of matter, and putting my serious face on for just a moment, I feel like he is one of those players, maybe a bit like Alexis Sanchez, where because they kept playing in the Premier League beyond their peak years, and that is now the most recent, or in Mata's case, the immediate thought of them, people start to forget just how good they once were. Mata only spent 2 full seasons at Chelsea, but he was absolutely phenomenal in both of them. Personally, I thought he was Chelsea's best player in both of those seasons, as they won the Champions League and the Europa League, and that was reflected in him winning successive Chelsea Player of the Year awards. Then came the arrival of Jose Mourinho, the shunning of Mata in favour of Oscar, and his move to Manchester United. Like basically every player signed by Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement, and that really isn't all that much of an exaggeration, things haven't quite worked out for Mata at Old Trafford. That seems like an odd statement to make about someone who has played over 250 games for Manchester United, and Mata has had some very good games and even 3 or 4 good seasons during that time. But he has not produced, on a consistent basis, anything like the form that we saw from him in West London. This season, Mata is yet to play a single minute of Premier League football, and he has only started 1 game, against Young Boys, in all competitions, consistent with how his game time has fallen season upon season over the last 3 years. Mata reportedly earns £150,000 a week, but we know that at least 1% of that goes to charity, since Mata was the co-founder of the Common Goal charity, which encourages players and coaches to donate at least 1% of their wages to charitable organisations and causes. 5th, Isco. I'm not saying that all of the world's highest paid players who don't play are Spanish, but it is certainly a theme that has emerged in the early parts of this 7. Among the most frustrating footballers of the last 5 or 6 years in my view, it would be a bit rich of me, someone whose crowning achievements in life were publishing a book which lost money and gaining 400,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel that I didn't think to set up myself and therefore don't actually own, to claim that 4-time Champions League winning midfielder Isco, who has played 350 games for Real Madrid, ought to have achieved more in life. But, and it is a big but, given his talent, I do think that there was another level or couple of levels to Isco's game that he never realised. So gifted and elegant, the sky was really the limit for Isco when he won the Golden Boy Award at Malaga and signed for Real Madrid. There were a lot of stars at the Santiago Bernabeu when Isco first arrived, but as they peeled away, most notably Cristiano Ronaldo in 2018, instead of taking on that mantle of being centre stage, Isco's form actually regressed, and he now appears to have very little future in the Spanish capital. This season, Isco has played a pretty pathetic 342 minutes of football and not a single minute in the Champions League. He actually started 2 of Madrid's opening 3 games of the season in La Liga, but he was substituted right around the hour mark in both of those games, for good reason, and the fact that he has barely featured since then should tell you something about how he has performed in training when given a chance in the first team, and what Carlo Ancelotti thinks of him. Out of contract at the end of this season, Isco is currently being linked with a move to West Ham, which, I must say, I think would be a poor signing for West Ham, reminiscent of their transfer policy of old, rather than everything that they've got right over the last couple of years. But wherever the 29-year-old ends up, it seems highly unlikely that his next club will match his current wages, which are reported to be in excess of £200,000 a week. 4th, Marcelo. I feel like I've ragged on Marcelo a fair few times over the last couple of years, which is ironic in some respects, given the fact that I used to be told that I overrated him when I started this channel. But his demise at Real Madrid has, in many respects, been quite sad to watch. I said a little while ago that I thought Marcelo should have returned to Brazil last summer, at the very latest, and probably a year before that, and done what Dani Alves did, and started to play midfield. I saw a clip the other day of Marcelo practicing free kicks in Real Madrid training, and he whipped about 4 in a row over the wall and into the top right corner, before firing the last one into the top left stanchion at speed. To me, that only reinforced what I already thought, that Marcelo is technically still outstanding, you don't lose that, and he can certainly still strike a ball. But he can't run, his defensive positioning has always been a bit suspect, and now that he has no recovery pace, he is just a total and utter liability at fullback. But he could, for someone, albeit not Real Madrid, do a decent job as a sort of deep-lying playmaker. Or in the quarterback role, as some people seem to insist on calling it now. The reason why Marcelo hasn't left Real Madrid up to this point, I suspect, is because no one else would pay him the kind of money he is on at Real Madrid. In fact, few teams could pay him the money he is on at Real Madrid even if they wanted to, which they obviously wouldn't. The Brazilian veteran signed a 5-year deal back in 2017, which is reported to be worth roughly £250,000 a week, which means that Marcelo is still the highest paid out-and-out fullback in all of world football. He has played 569 minutes of football this season, which is admittedly slightly more than Isco, but it's still not very much. Like Isco, Marcelo hasn't started a game in the Champions League this season, though he has at least featured, and also like Isco, when he has played, he has given Carlo Ancelotti few reasons to believe that he ought to play more often. Third, Edinson Cavani. Another player whose supposed wage took me a little by surprise. Again, Edinson Cavani joined Manchester United from PSG, where he scored 200 goals in 301 games, so even as a veteran, I guess it shouldn't come as a great surprise that he commanded a fairly hefty premium. It should be said that the fact that he hasn't played much makes the numbers seem more surprising, as with Bernat, but that is sort of the entire premise of the video, so I probably should have thought about that. Idiot. Cavani made a significant contribution in his debut campaign at Old Trafford last season, scoring 17 goals in 39 games in all competitions. That is a very respectable record for a striker in his mid-30s, and Cavani's experience and talismanic presence playing through the middle gave Manchester United's youthful forward line some much-needed know-how and something a little bit different. He was also someone those younger players could watch in training and take a lot from. When Cavani agreed to stay for another year at Manchester United over the summer, you suspect that neither he nor Manchester United anticipated the club to sign Cristiano Ronaldo during the same window. Ronaldo is, in many respects, an even older, even higher paid, and, sadly for Cavani, an even more prolific version of him. Consequently, the 35-year-old Uruguayan, who is reported to be earning £250,000 a week at Manchester United, has only played 761 minutes of football this season. He didn't start a single game in the Champions League, and he's only played a full 90 minutes in any competition thrice. It should be noted that Cavani has had a couple of injuries this season, a groin strain and a problem with his tendon. But the main reason that he isn't playing is because of the signing of Ronaldo, so I figured that he was fair game for a spot in third. Second, Eden Hazard. The forgetting of how good someone once was after they drop off in terms of being able to produce at that level, which I mentioned in regard to Juan Mata and Alexis Sanchez, could, it is not inconceivable to imagine, start to cloud people's judgment of Eden Hazard at some stage. I hope that is not the case because you can count on one hand the number of more gifted footballers to have played the game over the past decade than Hazard, and I believe he holds the record for having won the most Man of the Match awards in the Premier League during the 2010s. During his time at Chelsea, Hazard more than earned his wages, whatever he was on. His ability to produce something out of nothing and to win a game almost single-handedly probably won Chelsea double-digit points returns in all but one of his seasons at the club. But it does now appear, with the benefit of hindsight, that the Blues sold him at just the right time. Not only did they get an enormous potential €146 million transfer fee for a man who was already approaching 30, but Hazard, after having had virtually no long-term injuries at Chelsea, has been plagued by injury setback after injury setback since signing for Real Madrid. In some respects, Hazard still hasn't had a really long-term injury, like a ruptured ACL or a broken leg, but he has just had a horrible series of niggling injuries, which spanned basically his entire first 2 years in Madrid. Closing in on 3 seasons in the Spanish capital now, Hazard has only played 65 games in total, many of those coming off the bench, having once played 62 games in a single season at Stamford Bridge. This season, I'm not sure everyone realises, Hazard hasn't been permanently injured. Yet, he has still only played 877 minutes of first-team football. He has played a full 90 minutes only once in all competitions, and he's barely had a look in the Champions League. It is a sad demise for someone so outrageously talented who is still only 31 years old. But the fact that Hazard is said to be the 6th highest paid footballer on the planet on a reported £380,000 a week means he takes second, way ahead even of Edinson Cavani. First, Gareth Bale. You knew it, I knew it, and he knew it, supposing he was watching, and why wouldn't he be? It's not like he's got anything else to be doing up until the next international break. Gareth Bale is currently using the biggest club in world football as little more than a gym with world-class facilities to keep him fit, ready for him to remind everyone how good he still is with Wales, but unlike most gyms where you have to pay a fee and you don't actually turn up, Bale does turn up, and he gets paid, reportedly, more than £500,000 a week for the privilege. It's not bad work if you can get it. Gareth Bale is very good at football. It sounds obvious, I know, but there were times, particularly during the 2019-20 season, when I wondered whether that was still the case. Bale played just 20 times for Real Madrid that season, he only scored 3 goals, and his many injuries and intermittent first-team opportunities even when fit looked as though they may have finally taken their toll. Last season though, whilst far from having been vintage Gareth Bale, he did score 11 goals and make 3 assists in only 20 games in the Premier League on loan at Tottenham Hotspur. And for Wales, well, Bale just seems capable of rolling back the years whenever he pulls on that red shirt, which is especially remarkable for someone who is playing next to no league football. Bale has only played 270 minutes of football for Real Madrid this season, the majority of which came in the club's first 3 games of the season. Bale then suffered a knee injury, followed by a calf injury, and then he caught COVID-19. Since the start of the year, however, Bale isn't believed to have had many fitness issues, but he still hasn't played. He played 74 minutes of football against Villarreal at centre-forward at the start of February, but nothing before or since. So the 32-year-old Welshman, somewhat inevitably, takes top spot in this 7. Bale is out of contract at the end of this season, and there is more chance of him signing for Blackpool than there is of him staying at Real Madrid. I joke, but the current bookies' favourites to sign Bale are actually a championship team in the form of his hometown club Cardiff City, who are shorter odds than the likes of Tottenham and Roma. I mention that because it's interesting, not to encourage betting. Please gamble responsibly. Or, better still, not at all. There are much cheaper habits like playing fantasy football, going orienteering, probably even developing an addiction to cocaine. I'm not recommending any of those either. In fact, just don't pay any attention to me at all. Live your own lives. You are all individuals. That is it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. I sincerely hope that was the case. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed, of course, and have notifications turned on. That bit also goes without saying, for HITC Sevens. And you can find me on social media on either Twitter or Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.